My name is Patricia Morgan, and I'm 58 years old. For most of my life, I've worn simple clothes, lived in a modest apartment, and never talked about money with my son, Marcus. I wanted him to understand the value of hard work, too. Build his own path without relying on what I had. So he never knew about my monthly salary of $40,000, or the investments I'd carefully grown over 30 years. Marcus is 32 now, married to a woman named Vanessa for 3 years. I'll be honest, I had concerns from the beginning. Vanessa came from a wealthy family, the kind who measured people by their bank accounts and designer labels. But Marcus loved her, and I kept my worries to myself. A mother learns when to speak and when to simply watch. One Thursday evening in October, Marcus called me. His voice had the careful tone people use when they're uncomfortable. "Mom, Vanessa's parents want to meet you properly. They're hosting a dinner at their home this Saturday. Can you come?" I felt a flutter of unease in my chest, but I agreed. "Of course, sweetheart. What time?" 6 o'clock. And Mom. He paused. "Just be yourself." That pause told me everything I needed to know. Saturday arrived with clear autumn skies. I dressed in my usual style, a simple navy dress I'd owned for years, comfortable shoes, my grandmother's small pearl earrings. As I looked in the mirror, I thought about adding something fancier, then decided against it. Marcus said to be myself, and this was who I was. The Ashford house was exactly what I expected. A sprawling estate in the suburbs, with columns framing the entrance and a circular driveway that could fit 10 cars. I parked my 12-year-old Honda beside their gleaming Mercedes and Lexus, feeling like a small boat next to yachts. Vanessa's mother, Kristin Ashford, opened the door. She was dressed in what I recognized as designer clothing, her smile polite but cold as winter frost. "Patricia, do come in." Her eyes swept over me, taking in every detail of my simple appearance. I saw the flash of satisfaction cross her face, the same look a cat gets before pouncing on a mouse. The dining room was formal, with crystal chandeliers and china that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Vanessa's father, Robert, sat at the head of the table. Marcus and Vanessa were already seated, and I noticed my son looked tense, his shoulders tight. Throughout dinner, the conversation flowed around me like a river around a stone. Kristin asked questions that seemed innocent but carried thorns. "Patricia, dear, where did you say you were?" "I'm in financial consulting," I answered simply. "Oh, how nice. And you've been doing that for many years?" her tone suggested. She was asking about a hobby, not a career. 33 years now. Robert leaned forward. "Must be difficult managing on a consultant's salary." "These are expensive times." I smiled and said nothing. I'd learned long ago that silence is sometimes the best response. Then Kristin turned to Marcus. "Sweetheart, I've been meaning to ask, how do you manage helping your mother financially? I know Vanessa mentioned you send her money regularly." The room went still. Marcus's face flushed red. "Mom doesn't need." I gently touched his arm. "It's all right, Marcus." Vanessa spoke up then, her voice carrying an edge I'd never heard before. "We've been discussing it, actually. With our plans to buy a larger house, we need to be more careful about where our money goes. Perhaps we should reduce what we're giving you, Patricia." I looked at my son and saw the confusion in his eyes. "Giving me the $500 a month," Vanessa said firmly. "It's been adding up." Marcus turned to her, bewildered. "What are you talking about? I've never sent Mom money." Vanessa's expression faltered for just a moment before recovering. "Of course you have. The transfers from our joint account." Understanding dawned slowly, like a sunrise revealing a landscape. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. The transfers were there, all right. $500 deposited monthly into an account, but not mine. "Marcus," I said quietly, "what's your bank account number?" He recited it, and I checked the routing numbers against the transfers. They didn't match. Kristin's voice cut through the tension. "Well, regardless of where the money's going, it's clear that Patricia relies on her son's generosity. It must be so hard, living paycheck to paycheck at your age." She turned to me with exaggerated sympathy. "Dear, there's no shame in struggling. In fact, Robert and I were discussing this before you arrived. We'd like to help you. We're prepared to offer you $2,000 a month, the kind of family assistance program." Robert nodded. "Of course, we'd need to review your expenses, help you budget properly. Kristin is excellent at managing household finances for people who aren't quite as sophisticated." Kristin finished, her smile sharp. I felt something shift inside me, like a door opening. Not anger. I'd learned long ago that anger clouds judgment. Instead, It was clarity. Pure and cold. That's very kind, I said slowly. But before we discuss my finances, I'm curious about something. I turned to Vanessa. Those transfers Marcus supposedly made to me. Could you show me the account details? Vanessa's face went pale. I don't have my phone with me. Use Marcus's phone. I suggested gently. Marcus handed it over without hesitation. Vanessa's hands trembled slightly as she opened the banking app. The silence stretched as she scrawled, and I watched Kristin and Robert exchange glances. Well? Marcus asked. Vanessa set down the phone. Fine. I made a mistake. The money was going to a different account. Which account? I asked. Though I already suspected. She said nothing, and I nodded. Let me guess. An account you controlled. You were taking money from your joint account with Marcus and telling him it was going to me, making him feel guilty. Perhaps even making him question whether he was doing enough for his mother. Kristin stood abruptly. This is absurd. Vanessa would never, please, I said, holding up my hand. Let me finish. You invited me here tonight for a reason. You wanted to see the poor, struggling mother. You wanted to establish clearly that I was a burden, someone who needed rescue. And then you could position yourselves as the generous saviors while simultaneously making Marcus feel inadequate. I stood then, smoothing my simple navy dress. The truth is, I've worked in wealth management for over 3 decades. I started as an assistant and built my way up to senior partner. My salary is $40,000 per month before bonuses. I've invested carefully, lived simply, and accumulated quite comfortable savings. The room was so quiet I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the corner. I never told Marcus because I wanted him to build his own life, not rely on mine. I wanted him to be proud of what he accomplished himself. I looked at my son, seeing his mouth hanging open in shock. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Perhaps I should have told you sooner. I turned back to Kristin and Robert. As for your generous offer of $2,000 monthly, I appreciate the thought, but I'll decline. However, I am curious about something. You measured me the moment I walked through your door. You saw my old car, my simple clothes, and you made assumptions. You decided I was less than you, someone to be pitied or patronized. May I ask why? Kristin's face had gone from pale to flushed. We were only trying to help. No, I said softly. You were trying to establish hierarchy. You wanted to make sure I knew my place in this family beneath you, dependent, grateful. You wanted Marcus to see me as a burden so that he would cling more tightly to Vanessa and, by extension, to you. Robert found his voice. Now see. Here, I'm not finished, I said, and something in my tone made him stop. I've spent 30 years helping people manage wealth, and I've learned something important. Money doesn't make you rich. Kindness does. Compassion does. The way you treat people who can't do anything for you, that's the measure of your wealth. I picked up my purse. Marcus, sweetheart, I love you. You're welcome to visit me any time, but I think I'll skip dessert tonight. As I walked to the door, Marcus stood. Wait. I turned, and he crossed the room to embrace me. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I had no idea. I know, baby. We'll talk soon. Vanessa remained frozen at the table, but as I reached the door, she called out, where was the money going? The transfers. I paused, looking back at her. I expect that's something you and Marcus need to discuss, along with many other things. I drove home through the quiet streets, the autumn leaves swirling in my headlights. My phone buzzed repeatedly, Marcus calling, then texting. I'd answer soon, but first, I needed to breathe. 3 days later, Marcus appeared at my apartment. His eyes were red, and he looked like he hadn't slept. I made tea, and we sat in my small, comfortable living room. The money was going to an account Vanessa set up, he said quietly. She called it a security fund. She'd been doing it for 2 years. I see. She said she was worried I wasn't ambitious enough, that I wasn't providing the lifestyle she was used to. The account was supposed to be a cushion, something she controlled in case. He trailed off, in case you disappointed her. I finished gently. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have known. I should have questioned things. I took his hands. Marcus, listen to me. You're a good man with a good heart. You trusted your wife, which is what you're supposed to do in a marriage. The fault isn't yours. I never thought you needed my help, he said. I mean, you never asked for anything. But when Vanessa said you were too proud to ask, that you were struggling, she played on your kindness, sweetheart, on your love for me. We sat in silence for a while, drinking tea as the afternoon light faded. What do I do now? he asked finally. That's your decision to make. But ask yourself this: can you trust her again? And more importantly, do you want to spend your life with someone who would manipulate you this way? 6 months have passed since that dinner. Marcos and Vanessa are divorced. It wasn't easy or pleasant, but it was necessary. He moved into a smaller apartment, started therapy, and began rebuilding his sense of self. Last week, we had dinner together, just the two of us, at a small Italian restaurant we both love. He looked lighter, somehow younger. I met someone, he said, smiling shyly. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher. Tell me about her. She's kind. Real. She drives an old car like yours and doesn't care about designer labels. Last week, she spent her Saturday volunteering at a food bank. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. She sounds lovely. I'd like to meet her. She wants to meet you too. But I told her about everything. About my salary, about yours. All of it. No secrets this time. Good. That's how it should be. As we left the restaurant, Marcus hugged me tight. Thank you, for showing me what real wealth looks like. I think about the night at the Ashford's house sometimes, about how close I came to saying nothing, to accepting their condescension with grace and silence. But sometimes love requires us to speak up, to show our children that kindness isn't weakness and that true dignity comes from treating others with respect, regardless of their circumstances. I still drive my old Honda. I still wear simple clothes. But now Marcus knows the full truth, and more importantly, he's learned to measure people by their character rather than their bank accounts, and that, I believe, is the greatest inheritance I could give him.